Welcome back to Mass Appeal. Most people, they pay attention to their physical health, particularly when they're sick.
But it's just as important to care for our emotional and psychological well-being. So joining us to share more is Dr. Rob Robinson, Clinical Director of Family Care Counseling Associates in Wilbraham. Dr. Robinson, it's always great to have you here. So we're talking about emotionally healthy people.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's true that when people get sick, I mean, they immediately go to the doctors. At least most people do. You get a cold, you take care of yourself. You don't feel well. You know, you take care of your physical well-being. But a lot of people don't think about the fact that with psychological and emotional well-being, if you've taken some hits, and we all do with stress and loss and rejection and so on and so forth, you don't think about the things that you can do to keep yourself well in response to that and keep yourself resilient.
So we have a list of the habits of healthy people, what they do and how they overcome it. And the first thing is you have to gain control back after failure.
Yeah, you know, I mean, one of the things that happens after something doesn't go well is you focus on what doesn't go well. And whatever you think about expands usually. So, I mean, probably the best, simplest example I could give is if you play golf, okay, and you take a shot and you hit it into the woods, and then you hit a shot into the woods the next shot. I mean, you start focusing on how bad you are at golf. And what shows up more is just bad golf. Or if you go for an interview and you don't get the job, you think about what's wrong with yourself. So it's really the trick about trying to maintain optimism, which is not seeing everything as permanently and pervasively bad.
And it's also perspective. Instead of focusing on the bad, look at what's good in your life. So changing your perspective in life, and also finding meaning after loss or some kind of trauma.
Correct. I mean, a lot of people, after they've had a significant loss, they don't oftentimes actually look to see if there's a purpose there. I mean, you have to deal with the loss. It's not good to block that. I mean, it's important to share the sadness. It's important to deal with that. But in the aftermath of hurt and loss, I mean, you got to sometimes find the meaning. I mean, I've worked with so many patients who have had challenges in their life, like alcoholic parents or whatever, and they found that the meaning in that, for example, is that this is a way not to lead my life. And that helps people move forward with a sense of purpose and meaning following that.
I think the following tip is difficult. It's controlling the spread of negative sentiment, because it's easy. You know, you're in a bad mood and it starts to pervade out, like out of your pores almost.
Exactly. You know, I read a Wayne Dyer book once, and I think I mentioned this in a show in the past segment, but he said in one of his books, you know, you never get enough of what you don't want. And, you know, negative sentiment, no one wants that, but you focus on the stuff that doesn't go well, and that's what expands, that's what you see more of. So, you know, controlling that means being able to shift gears and take a look at things more realistically, because it's not all bad. And you want to curb that tide, because the more that stuff shows up, that's what you see, and if that's what you see, it's going to make you feel worse, more anxious, and more depressed.
Right, and you also don't want to make it contagious and have other people catch that as well.
Correct.
And then you also want to make sure that you work on your own self-esteem, bettering yourself and self-care.
Yeah, I mean, self-esteem is really destiny in someone's life, and self-esteem is not a factor of thinking that you're better than everybody else, but it's having a realistic assessment of who you are and what you are. I mean, self-esteem in essence is the relationship that you have with yourself in thought. And in addition to seeing things that may have not worked out well, you also have to count your blessings and look at the things that go well each day. So you're taking an inventory of that, so you're maintaining some degree of balance.
Right. Another thing that happy people do and healthy people do, they have a moment of rejection, and then they start realizing their self-worth again. They don't wallow in their rejection.
That's right. I mean, everybody experiences loss and rejection in their life. But again, there's a significant piece where you have to begin to take an inventory of the people who are close to you. Because even in rejection or loss, you still have a core of support usually in your life that you can rely on, that you can connect to, and you have to remind yourself that in response to losing people or having rejection.
Now we've got about 45 seconds left, Dr. Robinson. It's also important to make sure that you get rid of that guilt by repairing relationships.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, again, a lot of people feel badly in response to things that don't go well in relationships, but if you've done something wrong to somebody, it's best to apologize, take ownership of it, and then let it go. Because if you carry around that kind of guilt and you begin to believe that you're not a good person in a relationship, again, that's what expands, and your health ends up affecting the health of other people.
And it takes a whole village, so the more relationships that you can repair, the bigger base of friendship you have.
Absolutely, and practice forgiveness. You don't have to go back and re-embrace someone that hurt you necessarily, but get the monkey off your back and just learn to let it go and forgive.
Let it go, yes. Great advice. We can all use it in our life. Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you.